Okay, so after a week off of YouTube, I had to calm down because of my Mike Smith incident, and I got some new banner art. If you go to my YouTube channel link, the link will be in the description below, or you can click the little icon to go to it. Anyways, after calming down and watching the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have their bye week and watching two overtime games end in field goals, both the Baltimore Ravens and Cleveland Browns, and the Dallas Cowboys and Houston Texans, I thought to myself, what the fuck am I going to do for a video since I took a week off? Well, here's the video. It's on Steven Reichlen's Project Smoke Brisket on the Bone Maverick PT100. Now, if you've been a fan of War Corpse for a long time, or as he's now currently known, Lord of Patriarchy, you know about his hate for Steven Raichlen. And today I'm going to share the hate with you guys as we take a look at one of his videos that came out in very recently, 2016. Yeah, get in the full screen. Let's do this.
Our next dish combines two icons of American barbecue, brisket and beef ribs. It starts with the biggest, baddest rib on Planet Barbecue, the beef plate rib. The wow power is off the charts. This is a beef plate rib. It's cut from the lower forequarter of the steer. There are only 3 ribs to a rack, and each rack weighs 7 to 9 pounds. To start, I'm going to cut a series of crosshatches on the top of the rib, about 1/4 of an inch apart and 1/8 of an inch deep.
Okay, you see what he's doing there? He's scoring the brisket before he puts it on the grill. Now, some might say, well, why do you score meat? Well, it's one of the many techniques that you can use in order to make the brisket not ball up. I've seen this done with burgers, and it can certainly be done with a brisket.
These crosshatches help the spices get into the meat and help release some of the excess fat. Now, the next thing you want to do is turn the rib over and make a lengthwise slit down each bone through the membrane. This will help you remove the bones when the rib is cooked.
Okay, nothing wrong there.
Okay, and I'll do the other beef rib the same way.
It's been a while since he's used the ice bath method. I wonder if he was like, fuck it, this beef will get up to room temperature anyway, so might as well leave it out of the ice tray for a while.
So where have beef plate ribs been all these years? I ate my first beef plate rib at Mighty Quinn's Barbecue in New York City. It's also a specialty at the famous Franklin's Barbecue in Austin, Texas, and Hometown Barbecue in Red Hook, Brooklyn.
Funny, I think you can find smoked brisket at just about any place with a grill. Maybe even Sonny's has it, but it's been a while since I've been to one of them, so I don't really know. Actually, Sonny's lovers, do they actually have smoked brisket on the menu there? I'd like to know.
Once again, turn the beef rib over and make a lengthwise slit through the membrane along the bone on the back of the rib. Next, the rub. It couldn't be simpler. Equal parts sea salt, freshly ground or cracked black peppercorns.
That doesn't look freshly cracked. If it was, it would be coming out of the pepper grinder.
And hot pepper flakes. Mix the ingredients with your fingers. The idea is to keep the seasoning simple. This is really all about the smoke and the meat. Now sprinkle the ribs on both sides and rub the seasonings into the meat. That's why it's called a rub. Turn the bones over. And don't forget to season the ends of the ribs and the sides of the ribs.
Okay, you must be doing a sear on all sides then.
All right, just two more things you need to do. Fill a steam pot with beer. This will go in the smoker and it will help create a moist environment to keep your ribs moist. And fill a spray bottle with distilled white vinegar. Now let me show you the smoker. To cook the ribs, I'm using an offset barrel smoker. It has a firebox that is adjacent to and slightly lower than the main cook chamber. I built a hot bed of charcoal embers earlier to actually heat the smoker, and then to generate smoke, I'm adding an oak log to the fire. Now it's time for the beef.
Oh, there's the ice. And I was about to give him a point for not including the ice tray path, but there it is. And this is one of the many things that pretentious chefs do, is they think that if you leave something on a tray of ice, it'll still be good when it's cooked. No. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to get a raw center and a cooked outside. So, when you actually cook the inside, the outside's going to be charred. It's going to be tough as leather. It's going to be really hard to bite into that meat. Which is why I usually just leave meat out for an hour, maybe 2 hours at room temperature before I cook it.
So now I'll open the cook chamber, and because the cook chamber is hotter at the firebox end than the chimney end, I'll place the largest rack of ribs, fat side, toward the fire here, and then the next rack of ribs, fat side toward the fire, and then that pot of beer to create a steam pot in the smoker. Last step, spritz the ribs with vinegar. Now, and every hour for the first 5 hours of the smoke. Now close the smoke chamber. Cook time about 10 hours. And I just want to point one thing out to you. The temperature at the smoker down at this end is about 250 degrees. At this end, about 225 degrees. So halfway through the cook, I'm going to switch the racks of ribs so they cook evenly. Meanwhile, let me show you how to make the chipotle barbecue sauce. Now the barbecue sauce, it is a chipotle molasses barbecue
the meat
sauce.
Wouldn't cook
Chipotle
evenly
makes
then,
it hot.
if you're
Molasses
cooking
and
at
brown
different
sugar make it sweet.
temperatures.
Bourbon makes it, well, bourbon just makes everything taste better. We'll start with ketchup, brown sugar, molasses, which gives you sweetness, but also a kind of minerally earthy flavor. Then mustard for spice. Your favorite hot sauce for heat. Worcestershire sauce. Liquid smoke, which, believe it or not, folks, is a natural product made by condensing wood smoke. Chipotle chilies, so that's where your heat and additional smoke comes from. Finally, garlic powder. And of course, bourbon. And remember what Mark Twain said about whiskey? Too much is just enough. Whisk these ingredients together and bring to a boil. Then gently simmer the sauce until thick, concentrated, and luscious. That'll take about 10 to 15 minutes.
All right, then.
All right, it's been 10 hours. And check out those ribs. If Michelangelo had been a barbecue guy, these would have been his Sistine Chapel. And they sure look done, you can see, because the meat has shrunk back from the ends of the bones. But I always like to use a Maverick Pro Temp thermometer. Insert it in the deepest part of the ribs. You're looking for 195 to 200. Nailed it. Put on insulated gloves to take the ribs off the smoker. Pretty fragile, so I don't like to use tongs. We'll just pull them off. That's one. Beautiful. And here's two.
Okay.
Close the smoker.
I think the top actually looks a little burned. I'm sorry, but if you could see right here, it kind of looks a little black, so I don't know if it's burned or if it's crisped up. I have no idea.
So to serve the ribs, what I like to do is turn them over. Remember, we made those slits in the membrane, so it'll be real easy just to pull the bone out. That's how tender these are. So to serve the beef ribs, I'll turn them over, and you cut the ribs crosswise into slices. You slice it just like you would brisket. That's why I call this brisket on the bone. And look at those slices. Look at that gorgeous smoke ring, so juicy that if I press the meat with the side of the knife, it squirts. I am so excited about trying this. So, take the beef. So tell you what, I'm going to try it by itself before I add the sauce. So
thank God he's actually trying it on its own. That way he can see whether his cooking is worth it or not.
So incredibly tender. I hear the angels singing. This is so tender, so luscious, melts on your tongue, great smoky crust on the outside. Now let's try it with that chipotle molasses
That's
barbecue
what you should have in a brisket.
The sauce is really complex with the mustard, the bourbon, chipotle. But you know what? I'm going for this beef by itself. Oh, beef ribs, salt, pepper, and hot pepper flakes with smoke. That's pretty simple in my book.
All right, then. Props to him for actually testing the brisket on his own. He isn't pretentious enough to eat the whole thing with the sauce on it. So I guess that's a step up from all the other times when he's applied sauce to his dishes. Let's see, how long have we been going for here? 14 minutes. All right. I think I'll do another one. This one is 9 minutes long. Project Smoke Cherry Smoked Duck made on a Memphis wood fire grill. Okay. Let's see how bad this one gets.
In American barbecue, beef and pork grab all the glory. But I like it when poultry goes up in smoke. The mild meat is like a blank canvas for spice and smoke. I give you duckling with cherries and smoky chipotle cherry sauce.
Right.
This is a 5-pound duck, and last night I unwrapped it, put it on a wire rack in the refrigerator to dry out the skin. You can accelerate the drying process with a hairdryer. Set it on the lowest temperature setting and...
Why would you use a hairdryer? normally when the thing's dried out, it usually takes about 2 hours to get it up to room temperature.
And run it over the skin. So why do you dry the duck skin? Well, dry skin becomes more crackling crisp during the cooking process, and that means better duck skin when you serve the duck. Next, you want to make the rub. It's a sweet, salty rub. It starts with granulated sugar and salt and black pepper. And then you have cinnamon for a touch of sweetness and cumin for aromatic spice. Mix these ingredients together with a fork. Take some of the rub and sprinkle it in the cavity and place a cinnamon stick for fragrance and a shallot in the cavity as well. To truss the duck, make sure the neck skin is folded under the body. Then fold the tail piece into the cavity and push the legs to the side of the duck. Take a piece of butcher string about 20 inches long, slide it under the tail of the duck, loop it over, make a double loop, pull tight to pin the drumsticks to the side of the duck. Then pull the string over the legs, under the wings, and turn the duck over. Grab the string and you'll make a double loop, and then you want to just slide the string back as tightly as possible and tie it off and cut off any excess. Now the last thing, just pull that neck skin tight. You want to cut it off.
Okay, be careful about
And
cutting
here's
it
your
to
trussed duck.
scorch your
You can see
hand.
it's a lot more pleasing in shape than a bird that just sort of flops on the cutting board. Next step, prick the skin, but not the meat underneath of it. This helps release some of the excess fat in the skin. Baste the duck with a little extra virgin olive oil. Brush it over the outside of the duck.
Well, I suppose it's
Then season the
being grilled,
outside of the
so
duck
why not?
with the remaining rub. I love the scent of cinnamon and cumin. It's a flavor combination that's used in cuisines as varied as Mexican and Moroccan. To smoke the duck, I'm using a Memphis wood fire grill. It burns these hardwood pellets. I'm using cherry wood. Simply going to load them into the hopper.
Here we go with the pellet grill again.
Set the smoker temperature for
One of
250
Warcorp's
degrees.
main enemies in cooking.
So open the smoker, and the way a pellet smoker works, the pellets drop down. There's an auger that feeds them into a burn chamber. You can actually hear the pellets dropping. We'll place the duck in the smoke chamber. This smoker has a temperature probe, and you want to insert the probe into the deepest part of the thigh. Smoking time for this preliminary stage, about 2.5 hours, looking for an internal temperature of 145 degrees. Meanwhile, let me show you how to make that smoky chipotle cherry sauce.
Camera's rolling, here we go.
So the cherry sauce starts with a sweet-sour mixture called a bigarade. You make a caramel, that is a burnt sugar sauce. It starts with sugar and water. And you cover the pot to speed up the boiling process and rinse any sugar crystals off the side of the pan. Meanwhile, we're using fresh cherries in this sauce, and this is a cool device. This is called a cherry pitter, and you simply insert the cherry and then just push the pit out. So you can see the sugar is starting to caramelize, burn. Want to take it just a little darker. Once the mixture is well caramelized, add red wine vinegar. The mixture is going to hiss and sputter like Mount Vesuvius, and you just want to...
Here's another thing. I'd actually like to know what Steve Raichlen considers caramelized. Because to me, caramelization is just golden brown when you're cooking sugar.
Whisk it to dissolve the sugar. add port wine, then freshly grated lemon zest, the oil-rich outer rind. Cut the lemon in half, and you can add a squeeze of fresh lemon juice. I squeeze it between my fingers to catch any seeds. Now, whisk in 1 cup of chicken or duck stock and add a cinnamon stick to reinforce that cinnamon flavor in the rub, and chopped chipotle chili, and you'll bring this mixture to a boil. And once the sauce boils, add the fresh cherries. Simmer the cherries until soft. That'll take about 3 minutes for fresh cherries. So to thicken the sauce, we're going to make a slurry that is a mixture of cornstarch and a little kirsch, cherry brandy. Dissolve the cornstarch in the kirsch. That will reinforce the flavor of the fresh cherries. To thicken the sauce, simply stir the slurry. You don't want it too thick, just slightly thickened. And then the last thing you want to do is just add a spoonful of butter. And of course, don't forget salt and pepper. You can see the butter makes it glossy. You get cinnamon, you get chipotle. Oh man, this is luscious. Not too sweet. Great smoky caramel undertone from the burnt sugar and the chipotle. Here's the duck after 2.5 hours. You can see it's beautifully brown, still looks moist, nice smoke coming out. And what you want to do now is increase the temperature of the smoker to 400 degrees, crisp up that skin. It'll take about another hour of cooking. I don't know about you, but I'm getting hungry. Here's the duck after the final high heat roasting. I'll just pull out this probe. And our cherry chipotle sauce.
All right.
So you can make a cut along the breastbone. Oh, the knife just glides through the duck as though through butter.
Might want to cut off the string there.
And then I'll cut a few slices. Look at that beautiful smoke ring. That is a chemical reaction that occurs when the smoke comes in contact.
Okay, I don't know where the smoke ring is. I'm assuming it's this pinkened area. It's weird because normally duck won't get a smoke ring from a pellet grill.
With the meat. Wow. This looks great. Now we'll add a little sauce, and I'll cut a slice.
Here we go.
Oh man, this is so good. That duck is so tender and succulent. Nice smoke flavor, little heat from the chipotles, just like what I used to eat in Paris, only with a Project Smoke twist.
That's good. Very nice, Steven.
So, why wouldn't you just have the duck on its own then? Because it already should have enough flavor to carry the dish. I mean, the